Hello, and welcome to the Telescope Show. We laugh, we discover God, and we totally nerd out. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson.
And I am Katie Seipel Anderson.
We're so glad to be back with you. This is episode number 152, and we will be interviewing a Comic-Con legend, a San Diego Comic-Con legend, to be specific, Mr. Ralph Miley. It was a very encouraging interview. And of course, we can't resist throwing in a few of our thoughts on The Mandalorian Episode 1, although we're going to do a more comprehensive episode as we get deeper into the season so we can see how our predictions fared. I think the biggest revelation to come out of this first episode, for me at least, was just the idea that they're going to throw a completely new bad guy at us.
Which actually is a great transition into my Did You Knows. Because of this pirate bad guy, I looked up just a little bit on pirates. Although the general pirate outfit and accent and all that was kind of a Disney creation, pirates did wear eye patches. But not because they were all missing an eye. It's because it would help them, or at least they thought it would help them adjust more quickly between the bright ship deck and the dark places below ship.
Really?
Yeah.
That's like those lenses that you can get in your glasses that transition from sunglasses to regular glasses.
Right. It's kind of like the early version of that, according to E. Bruce Goldstein's Sensation and Perception.
That's amazing.
And they also had a sophisticated mail system and kind of almost a retirement plan and workers' compensation, apparently. They would compensate people if they lost a limb. So in a lot of ways, they were paid a lot better and treated a lot better than pirates or sailors on merchant ships, which is probably why they kind of had their golden age.
Wow.
And there were women pirates.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I think one of the pirates that was the most
feared, the most despised, had the biggest 401k match.
Just keep trying as I'm looking this up here.
No, I'm imagining this scene, right, where this young guy comes down in below deck in a pirate ship and he wants to join up. He's all ready. He's ready for sword play and sailing and adventure. And this crusty old pirate looks at him as "Arr, sign on the line if you want to opt into short-term disability, lad."
But what I was actually, thank you for that. What I was actually trying to say is one of the most powerful pirates, because there was a woman who commanded more than 300 ships. It was her and her husband, but her husband died and then she took over and commanded over 300 ships.
That's an armada. That is amazing. Well, Katie, I have a question for you. Speaking of The Mandalorian, would you rather attend Star Wars Celebration in London, England, or San Diego Comic-Con in sunny San Diego?
I think I'd have to choose London, England. I would just like to go visit England sometime, so it doesn't really have to do much with the convention. With the location, though.
Even if you knew you couldn't go visit the Downton Abbey Castle?
Yeah, even if I knew I couldn't do that.
All right, right on. Honestly, I think I'd be with you. I'd love to go see London. That'd be an awesome bucket list thing.
There it is. It's on there. On our bucket list. Do we even have... We don't have a bucket list. We should make one.
We should make one.
Yeah.
We should make one. Well, it is time to go to our interview with Mr. Ralph Miley. Let's go. So today, Katie and I are talking to Ralph Miley, pastor, teacher, artist, and lifelong comic fan. Ralph also volunteers with the ministry of the Chirstian Comic Arts Society. So cool to have you with us today, Ralph.
Oh, it is indeed a privilege. I'm just so thankful.
So you are also part of New Creation Comics, and it's a comic book studio dedicated to creating faith-based, culturally diverse stories across a wide range of story genres and art styles. That's pretty cool.
That's cool. It sounds like a lot, though.
Well, we've been at it for quite a while. We've been publishing since about the year 2000. Actually, our first publication was 1998 with the book Proverbs and Parables. And we started out with maybe 25 artists, but then by word of mouth, it just ballooned to over 60 artists contributing to that book. And that was like our first publication.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did those look like?
What they did was they just illustrated in whatever genre they felt impressed to do so. So you could have the text from Proverbs 1, but it's set in an urban setting. Or you could take another text from Proverbs and it is set in a Western as a sci-fi. So you have these different settings, but the scripture is what the people read.
Ah, okay. And I'm actually looking at the cover of that on newcreationcomics.com. So that's actually available right now. If someone's curious, they can go check that out.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks awesome. What were some of your early inspirations with comic books?
Well, my first inspiration was actually back in 1964 when my brother introduced me to Fantastic Four number, I think it was 24, with the Hulk versus the Thing.
Oh, yeah.
By Jack Kirby. And ever since then, I was hooked. I've been enjoying comics ever since then. And that was my foray into it. And then back in, I think it was 1978, I went to my first comic book convention, which was the San Diego Comic Con. And that was just like, I'm in comic book heaven. This is so much fun, because I was a geek when being a geek and a nerd really wasn't popular, but that was okay.
Oh, yeah. And nowadays, that is like serious street cred that you've been going to San Diego Comic Con since back in the day before it was a big deal.
Yes.
I think I saw somewhere that you guys have actually had a booth at San Diego Comic Con for quite a number of years.
Yeah, we had the Chirstian Comic Arts Society. We started our table at about 1997. That was our first table, and we've been there for 25 years. There with a table at the San Diego Comic Book Convention.
I've been to a couple conventions. I think I've been to 3 now to promote this podcast. And that's been such a fun experience just to get out with people and other fans and be able to interact with them face to face. I love it.
Well, our experience has been really good because, again, it is a secular event, but we've had this table there for so many years, and the convention organizers have been very, very gracious to us. We have developed a really good relationship with them. Even though we're openly Christian, when you go to our table, it's the Chirstian Comic Arts Society, so there is no doubt as to where we are. And we have our evangelistic tracks on the tables for people to pick up. We're not using the bullhorn or saying repent or die, but what we do is we do have tracks that share the gospel, and they pick them up and they will read them. And we've also had a Sunday panel for over 20 years.
Okay.
We've had a spiritual themes and comics panel for about 25 years. We've had a mixer there for almost 15 years. And those experiences there have just been really, really encouraging and really opportunities for us to share the light of Christ, through that industry. And like I said, they've been really great to us. I cannot say anything negative about my experiences there with Comic-Con and WonderCon, which is a smaller convention. Comic-Con will run about, 125, 130,000 people. And then there is a WonderCon, which is smaller, which is about maybe 30 to 40,000.
Sure.
And that's in Anaheim, California, near Disneyland.
Were there some specific things that really sparked an interest to create comics?
Well, I always, used to draw comics since I was a little child back in, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. I liked drawing comic books. And so I never really took it seriously. It was just something that I enjoyed. But then in about, I think, early 90s, I met up with, late 80s, I met up with a comic book fan by the name of Don Ensign. And he's the founder of the Chirstian Comic Arts Society. And he put out this newsletter called Valiant. And its purpose was to connect Christians who enjoy comic books. And he put this newsletter out for several years. And so I became a part of that. And since at that time Don Ensign was local, he was really into small press publishing. And so by association, I just hooked up with him, and we start producing just small press comic books in the early 90s. And from then, I just got hooked.
You eventually started your own newsletter called New Creation, the newsletter of Christian comics. Tell us about that.
Well, that was, again, it was myself, Don Ensign, and Kevin Young. And what we did was we decided to do, again, a newsletter along the same lines as the Valiant newsletter, which Don originated. And we would contact Christian professionals. We would do interviews. We would showcase artists. We would review Christian material. And we did that for about 2 years.
Okay. You know, back at that time, Christian comics and things were so underground. How did people find you?
Well, for the first, they found us through what was the Comic Book Buyer's Guide, which was a publication back in the day. They found us through that. And then a lot of it was through networking. And what eventually happened is that it created a network in which the Christian artists who were in the field professionally would be able to connect. What we want to do, we're really big into helping each other out, really big into networking. How can we help people out, even though we have no budget? We have little money. We still want to at least provide a platform in which artists can express their creative passion in whatever form that they desire. And so our Ragged Capes and our other book, which was New Visions. Now, New Visions is an anthology, and we would collect artwork from different artists from literally all over the world, and we would collect it in a book and then publish that. We still try to keep in contact with those artists. As a matter of fact, we still keep in contact with several of the artists. Sergio Cariello, who's the illustrator of the Action Bible, which is a best-selling version of the Bible put out by David C. Cook. We've been friends with him for decades, and he was a contributor to Proverbs and Parables.
That's so cool. I think my son has a copy of that Bible sitting up in his room.
Yes, very popular rendition.
What advice would you have for an aspiring, comic artist or writer?
One of the things that I would encourage them to do is networking. That has just been such a benefit, at least in my experience, to network with other Christian artists or even other artists in which you can come together and collaborate to produce a book. Because what happens is sometimes you get overwhelmed with family responsibilities and just life in general, and you can get discouraged by that. But if you have a network of people in which you can connect with, they can really serve as a source of encouragement. One of the things in which we have is called the Alpha Omega Apazine. And what an apazine is basically a paper blog that we produce bi-monthly. All the contributors will send artwork and reviews and stories or anything that tickles their fancy to a central mailer. He collates it into a booklet, and then he will send it out to the membership. There's a cost there's a fee as far as paying for postage. But what it does, it really serves as a point in which you can encourage people to just focus on trying to do it. You don't, and the people who are a part of it are really skilled. We have some really skilled artists and writers in that publication that can help young people or young artists just get a footing in the industry.
Very cool. So say that name again, and how can people find that and sign up if they're interested?
Well, it's called Alpha Omega, and it's called an apazine. That's APA/ZINE. You can go on Facebook, and if you go on Facebook, you'll find us there.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ralph Miley, for giving your time and hanging out with us on the show. It was so fun. It was very encouraging for Katie and I, actually. You said some really encouraging things to us personally, so thank you for that. If you want to check out Ralph's work, you can head over to newcreationcomics.com. I'll also put a link in the show notes to the story that was on Fox News about the Chirstian Comic Arts Society, which Ralph Miley is a big part of that. So check out the Chirstian Comic Arts Society. And check out us. Our website is thetelescopeshow.com. Don't forget to pull up your favorite podcast app or find a podcast app and decide it's going to be your new favorite. Find, like, and follow, subscribe
to the Telescope Show.
Boom. Until next time, love y'all. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.